Hello there, World of Tankers, and welcome to the channel. As you read in the title of today's video, the Obj 452K is soon going to be entering the assembly shop for World of Tanks. And you might notice that this garage doesn't look like World of Tanks. Yes, you would be correct. This is World of Tanks Blitz. And as you can already see, the 452K is a Tier 9 collector heavy in the game. It's rather interesting that Wargaming actually brought the 452K into World of Tanks Blitz before they brought it to World of Tanks PC. Now, I can personally say that it's actually a rather mediocre tank on Blitz, but that doesn't mean it'll be bad on World of Tanks PC. So in today's video, we are going to be taking a look at the statistics it has going for it. I have adjusted the stats a little bit. Quickie Baby literally just posted a video on the vehicle, but in the patch notes, he said that the tank has been buffed. Its top speed went from 35 to 40, its reverse speed got buffed, so I went into Inspect Element. I changed the stats so we can see that they are currently adjusted to what the vehicle should actually be. So let's take a look at this tank. After fully kitting out this vehicle, we can get a good idea of how it's going to play. I'm running improved hardening, we got a rammer in the firepower slot, and to finish it off, we have V-stabs. Just kind of a basic loadout overall. Look at that DPM, 3,000? That's actually really, really good, especially when you pair that with 560 damage per shot. This tank hits hard, and it's going to be able to pound out shells like crazy. Unfortunately, it doesn't have that much heat pen with only 320 mils. I feel like 330 is where you start to actually be able to cut through the majority of your opponents. 320 if you're aiming at an E100 turret, it's a 50-50. It's just meh. We can see that the aiming time is 2.24 seconds and the dispersion is 0.34. Pretty good, not great. It's kind of just classic Soviet terms of the gun there. What is actually pretty good though is the on move. We can see it's 0.18 base, and judging that I'm running V-stabs, we've got that down to 0.14. And look at the turret reverse, 0.06. This tank is actually going to be rather accurate while you're driving it on the move. And when you pair that with the pretty okay aiming time and high alpha, this tank is actually going to be really nasty to go up against. Mobility wise, it reaches a top speed of 40 and a reverse of 17. You could run a turbo, get this vehicle up to 45 kilometers per hour, reversing upwards of 20, but I don't really see that to be super important as it's already got good reverse speed, it's already got good top speed. It's powered away to 16, but as of right now it says 13 because I did mess with the equipment a little bit, but it is a powered away to 16, and that's actually pretty good as well. So the heavy's quite maneuverable, it's got a solid alpha, really good DPM, and look at the hit points. With improved hardening, 2,800. That's a lot of HP, and it means that you are going to be able to actually go toe-to-toe with some of the super heavies and get hull down. That's going to be really, really dangerous. Speaking of hull down capabilities, the vehicle features 7 degrees of gun depression, meaning that, yeah, you can also drive it in a hull down position. So let's take a look at that armor profile, because obviously when it comes to a Soviet heavy, that is going to be one of the most important parts. And it's actually quite similar to the Blitz armor profile of the vehicle. The upper plate is about 280-ish millimeters thick. It's not great, but obviously if you're using these 7 degrees of gun depression, you're not going to pen it at all. The lower plate is a massive weak spot, but it's actually quite strong. It's 240 mils thick. If you just slightly angle this tank's frontal plate, it becomes upwards of 280, but then the side armor becomes weak. Essentially, I just wouldn't angle the tank. Like, yeah, you might get a bounce, but it's going to be iffy. Anybody that knows the armor is just going to shoot you through the side. They're going to track you. They're going to lock you down. So you're probably better off just staying frontally focused and hoping that whatever's shooting at you just low rolls the pen. To be fair, Tier 9s and especially Tier 8s are going to bounce this frontal plate like crazy. But yeah, it's still a pretty easy pen for the most part. The thing that is really bad is the side armor. It's only 100 mils thick. I mean, you can side scrape with it, but it's not spaced. You're not going to be getting any bounces there. The rear armor, 50 mils. So it's going to be bad against HE. The back of the turret as well, side of the turret. It's not a very heavily armored tank unless you're using it hull down. Look at that armor in a hull down position. That is insane. 350 mils. Let's load heat. This is what it looks like against 320 mils of heat pen. 480, 500 millimeters on the upper plate. The turret, 600 mils. I mean, there's no weak spot. Even the mantlet, you can't pen it. Some tanks have weak mantlets. This tank does not. Upwards of 800 to 700 millimeters thick. So essentially, if the vehicle is hiding its lower plate, and it is only showcasing the turret, we can kind of pull out my calculator and show that here. If this is what you're seeing, good luck cutting through the vehicle. It is going to be nearly impossible. But obviously, if you get even a sliver of that lower plate, especially if it's using its gun depression, it's only going to be about 230 mils, and you can cut directly through it. The other weaknesses are very clear. You can cut right through this little cutout here. You can cut through the sides. So it has a lot of weaknesses. The side of the turret is not great. So if you get the side of it, you can cut right through. Something else you should notice is that you can overmatch the roof of this turret. We can see that right here. When you move the gun up and down, it does change that overmatch spot. So if it's using gun depression, you're not going to be able to see it. But if it's on flat ground, you might be able to hit the roof. It is a pretty weak spot, but I don't know. I really don't see much of a weakness when this vehicle's hauled down. From personal experience, playing this vehicle on World of Tanks Blitz, where it has the exact same style of armor and profile, while it looks incredible on paper, it's not going to be nearly as strong in terms of armor in actual play style. That is because the lower plate is going to be very hard to hide. It looks really easy to hide on paper, but trust me, this is going to be a big weak spot. You're going to think you're hauled down, and I guarantee that lower plate's going to be poking. I can also tell you for a fact that when you are poking corners, because of the way this turret is mounted, it's actually more of like mounted in the center of the tank, as we can see. Like if you look at where the turret goes to the back and the front, it's only slightly more on the front. And because of this, it means that when you're rolling around a corner, it's actually very hard to shoot somebody without poking a very large portion of the hull out first. These are things you're going to want to keep in mind while driving this tank. It does have weaknesses, and it's only going to be super strong if you're using it hull down. And obviously not every situation is going to allow you to do that. But, I mean, when it comes to the gun, this tank seems super, super capable. And if we take a look at a vehicle like the WZ-111 5A, 5A features the same gun depression, and it features a very similar gun in terms of the dispersion. It's got a little bit more DPM and a little bit more mobility, but overall, the 5A is quite similar. It's got the same base on movement dispersion. It's got a pretty similar power to weight. Everything when it comes to these two tanks, pretty close. The turret armor on the 5A is definitely worse, as we can see, than the turret armor on the Obj 452K. It has hatches which you can cut through, and the vehicle's mantlet is about 350 at certain spots, 300 at others, so you can pen the 5A, where you're not going to pen the mantlet or any part of the turret when it comes to the 452. The hull armor on the 5A is also worse. We can see it's about 250 mils on flat. If you're loading heat, you'll cut right through. If you're using gun depression, it is quite strong, but you have to be using the max gun depression. But the advantage of the 5A is the fact that its upper plate is much larger, which means that the lower plate is much easier to hide. Not only that, but it's got spaced armor on the sides, it's got angled spots, which are going to make it much better for rolling around a corner, and as we can see, that turret is much more front-mounted, which means when you're pulling around a corner, it's easier to shoot people rather than in the 452K, where you're going to be showing a massive portion of your hull armor. Overall, I think the tank's going to be really good. It's got DPM, seems kind of like a 5A, just with a different style gun. The alpha damage is going to be great, and I'm really excited to try the vehicle out, as long as it doesn't cost me 8 million gold. Let me know in the comments down below what you guys think about the 452K, but I can definitely say that it looks really, really dangerous on paper. We'll have to see how it plays. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.